The San Francisco 49ers have had some great off seasons in the past, to be sure, but no doubt I think this offseason, previously graded a B, some people calling it even a B-, is turning out to be an excellent offseason for the 49ers, preparing the way for the future, not just going into this offseason saying, how do we get back to the Super Bowl, which is an important question, not just saying, how do we stop the run better and find improvement on the offensive line, which are also important things, but saying, how do we do it in a way that also secures us and sets us up for the future? And I think the 49ers, this organization, has done an incredible job this offseason. On today's show, rookies rule. How good is this draft class and how influential will they be this season and off into the future? Number 2, defensive line overhaul. How are we feeling about the line now that all of these big wholesale changes have been made? Guys out, guys in. How are we feeling about it going into the season? Of course, some injuries of concern there as well. Number 3, Kruger's take, very, very interesting. Larry Kruger's 53-man roster projection. It raises a lot of great talking points. I look forward to talking through that one with you and hearing your takes in the comments section. And, of course, 2-minute drill. If you're new here, I'm Nate. We are talking the San Francisco 49ers every day on this channel. It really does help me out if you would consider hitting that subscribe button and liking this video. It does some good things for the YouTube algorithm, and I'd appreciate it. The good news is this, guys. The 2024 draft class looks like one to remember for the 49ers. Early take. I take it. It was just preseason, just training camp, but this 2024 draft class could be something that we look back on. Usually, I feel like 2 years out, you'll really have a good feeling for how good a draft class was, right? Which leads me to the question of the day today. What was the best draft class you can remember from this 49ers front office? Not this, any 49ers front office, right? What is the best one? I mean, the one that sticks out to me, 2019, you've got Nick Bosa, Deebo Samuel, Dre Greenlaw, Wishnowsky. Those are the guys who are still on the team. Off the top of my head, maybe I'm missing somebody there. But that was a big draft class. The 2019 draft class, some big, it wasn't like an array of players like how it currently feels like the 2024 draft class is. But, of course, it always feels that way at this point in the season. Well, not always, but it always feels that way early in the offseason. I'll say that. And we're fortunate to be this far into the offseason, loving it. But let me know what you guys think. I look forward to hearing your takes on it. 2019 sticks out to me, but I could see some other arguments out there, definitely for sure. So let me know what you think in the comments. I look forward to joining you there. Let's get into the stories of the day. Firstly, rookies rule. Guys, look at this draft class. Rookies rule, guys. Okay. Many people are going to tell you the biggest story of this offseason. Brandon Aiyuk, holding out. Will he trade? What's he going to do on social media? All of the questions surrounding Brandon Aiyuk. Trent Williams, another one you could say that's a big storyline of this offseason. And I understand those arguments for sure. And in terms of conversation, the amount of time they end up being talked about, I would understand those arguments. But the biggest story probably shouldn't even be those guys or trade rumors or how good or bad Brock Purdy is. The biggest story after everything we've seen so far in training camp, OTAs, and offseason, preseason, all that good stuff, this 2024 draft class, guys, this might be something we should be spending more time talking about. I don't feel like we're talking about it enough. These guys, this is nuts, guys. Look at the players on this screen, and they're all players. If you watched preseason, you were impressed by all of these guys except for Ricky Pearsall at least once, right? Weren't you? I think you were, but let's just go through them real quick. So Ricky Pearsall, we've seen very little from him. What we've seen, not even like really barely with pads, right? I think he was with pads like a day or two or something like that. But his route running does look elite. So I'm excited to see what we get from Ricky Pearsall when he is healthy and ready to go. It doesn't sound like his injury is too massive, so I'm excited about that. And so I'm going to use the word looks elite because we really don't know until we see it up against another team. And this, let me just disclaimer all of these players real quick and just say everything we've seen up to this point is practice against a very, very good defense. Let's be fair. Against a very, very good offense as well. I mean, like each side have to play against really good players. But, we've seen that in terms of practice, okay? And what we've seen is preseason. So training camp and preseason, I don't want to get ahead of myself too much here. So I'm going to just give that disclaimer now. Don't at me in the comments. I know it's all just preseason, but that's what we're talking about right now. Where are we at right now in history? Ricky Pearsall, I'm excited about him. We'll see what he can actually do. Renardo Green, he could very well be CB3. He could be, because he did not upstage Deommodore Lenoir. And a lot of folks were like, they drafted Renardo Green because he can play both in the slot and he can also play in a true corner outside position. And so in the nickel packages, you like Renardo Green coming inside. I understand that argument. And it would have been, in a perfect world, a nice scenario for Deommodore Lenoir to be a lockdown corner, as much as there is one. I think he's going to be. I mean, he's just impressive. But and he's taken even more strides this offseason. He's getting better. And then in that perfect vision would be then Renardo Green plays in nickel packages, and he just comes in for the nickel package and then he's back out. I get that argument, because you don't want Deommodore Lenoir who going both ways and having to think about going in both positions. But since Deommodore Lenoir's for sure going to be the guy stepping into the slot in nickel packages, then I think it makes sense to me that Renardo Green could very well be that third guy that's coming in outside in those situations. It's possible he's not, but the fact that we're even talking about him potentially being that good is a testament to how good this draft class is. That's the point that I'm trying to make here. Dominic Puni, what's not to like from the rookie? My goodness. My favorite thing I've heard, by the way, I think it was Brian Baldinger. I want to say it was him. I could be wrong, but I feel like I listen to so much content that I might get guys mixed up. But when I was listening to him, I think it was on Thursday, he was on The Game all morning. And he was struggling for words in terms of trying to criticize Dominic Puni. He was like, getting really, really technical about very fine details that Dominic Puni can still improve in. Again, just from preseason footage, I get it. But my goodness, in the simple stuff, we like what we're seeing, don't we? In like just the eye test, I love what I'm seeing. Absolutely love what I'm seeing from Dominic Puni. Malik Mustafa, wow. Talk about in the simple stuff. His power and speed and awareness and positioning, once the ball has reached the receiver, the returner, or in the hands of the running back, he has blown me away with his positioning, his power, his speed, his awareness once that happened. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I'm an elite defensive mind and I can recognize, all the things that we don't even know about the exact assignments and schemes that he's been asked to fulfill while he's out there on the field. In the simple stuff, like I mentioned, though, on defense and special teams, it looks like he's an absolute monster of a safety. Love that pickup for sure. Isaac Guerrero, small sample size. But this kid, like if you look at his story, he has fought against injuries. He has fought against being a starting role. He's fought for a starting role his entire career. And he had one chance to make an impression. One chance against the Raiders. 37 starters not in there. I understand, all right? But he had one shot, and boy, did he take his shot on Friday night against 2s and 3s, but my goodness, the potential is there. Jacob Cowing, there was so little to even talk about with Jacob Cowing up until about 2 weeks ago, and all of a sudden, now I'm seeing guys on Twitter and I'm seeing reporters talking about this guy just going off on how good he is. People putting him in the top 3 draft picks of this football team, of the 2024 draft class. And that's a huge testament to how well he's played and the unique skill that he brings to the wide receiver core that we don't really have anybody else filling out right now. That's a good thing. You love to have guys with specialty skills and to be impressive. Jarrett Kingston, for a 6th rounder, he has done literally everything you could have asked out of him. That bodes very, very well for the future. That gives the 49ers leverage in future business decisions that they're going to have to make. Absolutely excited about Jarrett Kingston as well. Tatum Bethune, this team looks surprisingly impressive at linebacker depth. For a football team that was a healthy Greenlaw away from being the number 1 ranked linebacking core in the NFL. And Tatum Bethune is a welcome 7th round surprise in my mind. I'm super impressed with how he's handled it as a rookie coming in and amongst a lot of really talented players, guys who are balling out like they've never balled. Curtis Robinson is playing his best linebacking football he's ever played in his life. He's taking risks to stay with the 49ers and try and make this football team. And Tatum Bethune out there has done very, very well. So excited about that 7th rounder as well. Nice little honorable mention, by the way, for Drake Nugent, Evan Anderson, Tanner Mordecai, these UDFAs coming out there and doing a pretty darn good job, in my opinion. I don't know how many of them make the football team. Evan Anderson has a shot. We'll talk about Larry Krueger's 53-man roster take, and Evan Anderson's got a shot, depending on how many players the 49ers decide to keep on this 53-man roster at different positions. Evan Anderson's got a shot, guys. And Drake Nugent has a shot, according to Larry Krueger as well, by the way. Cody Schrader, I'm not so sure, but not bad for a UDFA. We'll take the depth. We'll take the practice squad hit for that guy. I don't think he's going to be on the football team, but we'll take him on the practice squad if that ends up happening. We'll see how it all plays out because he also has a special teams benefit to you as well. So should Isaac Guerrero get injured again, for example, knock on wood, there you go. You've got Cody Schrader who could also come out there and do a job in special teams and returns, depending on how the roster all shakes out and how many players at each position, all that good stuff. Okay, let's talk about, wait, before I do that, I just wanted to get this one out there. There's a good chance that this rookie class for the 49ers is one that helps the team transition into the next era. The 2021-2023 classes felt lackluster, except for Brock Purdy, but this one feels like it has 4 to 5 immediate contributors. Great take on that one. Also, while we are talking about Dominic Puni, 77, guys, that's a number you want to remember. I mean, just watch him on these plays. Yeah, I'm not having any of that Brock Purdy. That wasn't a good pass from Brock Purdy, by the way. Don't love that argument. But just Dominic Puni. In run blocking several times on Friday night as well. My goodness. He's an absolute beast, guys. He's an absolute beast. I'm excited about him. I'm really excited about him. Let's talk about the next story of the day, which is the defensive line overhaul. As you remember, the San Francisco 49ers have the number 2 ranked defensive line coming into the 2024 season. This is all taking place before training camp. Okay, this is PFF's grade. Number 2, second only to who? New York Jets. We'll see you in a couple weeks. 15 days, something like that. But I love this one, guys. This is really interesting. So out of the team was Eric Armstead, Chase Young, Randy Gregory, which, by the way, looks like a dodged bullet on that one. In Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, Yetur Gross-Matos, Jordan Elliott. And I feel like, hey, I'm gonna be way big upping on these decisions. And part of this decision was run stopping. And while we're talking about, this has been flying all over the internet. Look at this. Absolute monster. He's an absolute monster. Do you want to see anything other than that in a run stuff? This was the run stuff I was talking about earlier, yesterday, I think it was, maybe the day before. This is just insane. I could probably watch that all day. Probably. Let's get to the 53-man roster, though. I think those huge changes are going to pay off. That's my personal take. Krueger's take, this is an interesting one. This is Larry Krueger's 53-man roster. And what I think is most fascinating about this one, there's a lot of stuff going on here. I'm aware. But what I think is most fascinating is the number of players he has taken at each of these different positions. Okay? So we'll talk about, firstly, this one, right? This is obvious, okay? Only taking 2 quarterbacks, okay? So you can see who's the odd man out on this one. You got Brock Purdy, you have Brendan Allen, and you're missing Dobbs, who in the comments below, he says he thinks the 49ers use as trade capital. Considering, if Brock Purdy's healthy all season, you would understand that decision for sure, absolutely. And it's one of those risk-reward situations for sure. And you've got Tanner Mordecai, who's probably going to be sitting on the practice squad, that if you had to, could come in and do a job. But, this is kind of classic quarterback decision conversation where if you're getting down to that level where you're getting your third guy up, you're not usually expecting to do a whole lot at that point anymore. Maybe win a couple games and hope that your guys come back, your starters come back. But, let's hope we don't get in that situation. Of course, history has said Brock Purdy, QB3, can come in and do a real job and become the starter. But I don't want to get there. So this is an interesting take just because the 49ers only took or normally take 3 quarterbacks, right? But you understand you can, in an emergency situation, suit up a guy. So let's see here. 5 running backs. You include Kyle Juszczyk, fullback, of course, in that situation. That's pretty standard. I think this is pretty much what most people have picked right here. 6 wide receivers. You're also seeing pretty much the same standard decision. Everybody's been kind of saying the same things. These are the guys you're expecting to make the team. Another interesting one, 2 tight ends. So just Kittle and Sauber, which I think is interesting for a couple reasons. I think there's a question around what happens to Braden Willis. I think there's also interesting question around what happens with Cam Latu. Does like I've said before, guys, I don't think Cam Latu can, just because of because of his history, because of his college play, and then he had a good game on Friday night. If you don't pick him up on this team, I don't think he makes it to the practice squad, but we'll see. Okay. That kind of stuff gets out of my depth really fast. 9 offensive linemen. That's standard. That's what we did last year, so no surprises there. Maybe some surprises being Nugent and Kingston making the team. So that one might be a little bit of a surprise to you, which is interesting. Standard for the special teams. Then on the defensive line, you pick up an extra guy from last year. Last year only held 8 defensive linemen. This year, Larry Krueger is projecting 9. So, of course, nobody's really bumping off the page here except for Evan Anderson, which that's awesome, guys. If Evan Anderson makes this team, kudos to me for being one of the first people to pick that. No, I'm just kidding. Kudos to Robert Beal Jr. also making the team. I have him making the team right now as well. But Evan Anderson, if you're taking a 9th guy, probably is the next guy up for me as well. So I like that take there. I'm not sure the 49ers will take 9, but they didn't last year. But you could see with injuries why they might need an extra guy. They might need an extra body going into the start of the season and not wanting to risk losing anybody to other teams picking them up in free agency. Then you've got, of course, 6 linebackers and Jalen Graham and Tatum Bethune getting the call up, as well as Curtis Robinson. Cool. Moving on, 4 safeties, standard, what everyone else has got. Then you see 7 cornerbacks. 7 cornerbacks. Last year we held 5, I believe. Yep, 5. I'm just double checking my notes here. Yep, definitely. So interesting there because there's, Rock Ya-Sin has had a lot of snaps. Okay? Darrell Luter has been pretty good. Womack was really rough on Friday, but good other than that, and he's young talent, to Larry Krueger's point. So I think you want to try and hold on to young talent when you can. So this is a really interesting one. I don't know that I see the 49ers holding 7 cornerbacks personally. But if they do, then I suppose these are the guys that are in there, and you basically take that big headache that was sitting there and you just exchange it for a headache at a position like tight end where you're letting some guys go. Maybe getting some decent, maybe you're trading some guys, but whatever the case is. And there is your practice squad. So Cody Schrader is not on the practice squad. Oh, there he is. Yeah. Okay. I was like, wait a second. I was wrong about that. Okay. Obviously, you've got Kalia Davis coming back. Drake Jackson, he's out. He's out, right? I think he's out for the season, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure he is. Dre Greenlaw, he won't be back until middle of the season. So these are your guys right here. This is it. This is your 53-man roster, according to Larry Krueger. Interesting in the comments. So what do you do with that tight end 3 position? I understand the argument only 2 tight ends doesn't make any sense. I would have said basically the same thing. I thought the same thing. The 49ers lately have kept 4 tight ends, actually, but saying that Garendo and Jennings could kind of fill in the job. That's an interesting one. I have not heard that take. Garendo is kind of, well, I don't know. This is going to be interesting. We'll see what happens. This is going to be fascinating. Let me know what you guys think about this, though. I'm not sure. I mean, yeah. Okay. We're not going to go any deeper on that. I wanted to get to if it'll work. If it won't work, it might work. 2-minute drill. I failed. What happened? I don't know what I did. I got to fix that. But just a couple of little notes that I didn't have time to get into a big conversation on, but I wanted to mention there. First drive really highlighted the value, this is on Friday night, of Kyle Juszczyk. 49ers count on him to make such difficult blocks. Braden Willis, who started at fullback, couldn't quite get to Janarius Robinson, and it led to a tackle for loss that killed the drive. Juszczyk is the ultimate glue piece for San Francisco 49ers offense. Great take. And that Braden Willis missed tackle was a huge missed tackle. Not even like halfway or block, excuse me. Not even a half block. I mean, it was just an absolute explosion. Rams, interesting news that came out today. Ernest Jones IV and his agents now have been granted permission to seek a trade. So we'll see how that plays out for the 49ers, but I'd say anytime your division rival, gives permission to trade on a top player, then we'll take that as a positive for us, whatever the case is. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Look forward to joining you there as always. My goodness, I got a couple comments from the last video I need to catch up on, so I will get there. Don't worry. I'll come back for you. Don't worry. As always, guys, this is super fun. We're 15 days away from the New York Jets. We have 2 days now until, not even 2 days, a day and a half until we're going to see those final 53-man rosters actually take place, see how many players are taken at each position, which I think will be interesting, as well as which players are taken, of course, more importantly. Guys, I'm feeling optimistic. This is going to be a good season. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to go through it with you all. As always, what a time to be alive.